Good morning, people. It is a bit better too than the last few days, which had been pretty darn wet and cold. Right, out to the workshop to cover a few things, which is good because a few things can be covered, whereas they couldn't be a few days ago. Did you follow that? Right, things have changed somewhat. The last video I made, I deleted. The video before that, I deleted. Video before that, so I've deleted a few videos. So you might see, might as well turn the lights on too, you might see a little bit of a difference in the workshop. So, what is Dave's diary entry for today? Well, mainly, I've got to get some work done. Work done in the workshop, and I've got to go do a little job, so I've got to go get some supplies. Have to put the racks back on the van to get them, the material, but yeah. Right, I've got the MFT style of top back in place. It actually has some working area around it, except over there. A lot of the small pieces that will be used up in the next job in the workshop, which will be the drawers, they are placed around there, and they are a pain in the butt. So that'll be good to get cut down. Hence why I've got the MFT style. I keep on referring to it. It's not an MFT top, but it's in the style of an MFT. Either way, I like being precise at times, don't I? But anyway, I've got some components there ready to go. The door is now functioning as a storage area for some tools, and of course the wall. I like this, but the tools may not be in their final resting place for their natural home. It feels okay, easy access. Reaching over items. Like the table, the cabinets, etc. So not too bad. What I did find quite surprising is that when I moved my workbench out to be used in the middle of the workshop area, I was able to tuck the planer thicknesser and the saw in quite neatly into that corner, and it's not intrusive at all as it was previously, because I didn't really have a tidy area for them to be tucked up into. And now that I've got the ductwork also suspended at a height just above the workbench height, they still can tuck up underneath it pretty well. Or the saw can anyway. The planer thicknesser, not so much, because it's got some of the mechanism above that height, but that's pretty cool. Having a relook at what I'm going to be doing with the ducting here, and I'm going to put in another 90. Yes, I know it should be a 45, but I actually don't mind the 90s going in. I don't mind. There again, if I've got a 45, I might pop that in anyway. So, we'll see. Now, what's happening here is I'm going to remake the plenum for the dust pickup. The logic being that if I replace the 100mm duct with two 65s, one on each side, I even out the dust extraction, but I keep around about the same volume or area of extraction. Having a smaller fitting means that I've got more articulation possibilities with the miter saw, because I'm going to look at putting in a box suitable, the plenum suitable for doing miters. I found it a real pain in the butt, not being able to, on the occasion that I need it, to do a miter, so I'm going to. It won't be a zero tolerance fence any longer, which is a bit of a downside, but it's mainly the item that you want is the bit that you need to have a zero tolerance surface against, pretty much. That means that's if I'm cutting a piece here with the 45, it's this piece that I want to be supported. So if it's not with not wording it well, but there will be a open area here that won't support the timber or the item that I'm cutting, because I'm not putting in, really wording this badly, sorry for that, but the fence is going to be built this side of the natural pivot point, the zero articulation point that the saw is designed with. So, yeah, I'd have to pull off the native fence, the fence, the aluminium fence that came with the tool, and have the face of the fence line up with it, which I'm not going to do. So this is going to be added to. So therefore I'm going to have that little bit of a not as good a zero. There's going to be a gap, okay? Let's just say that. So that's what I'm going to do there. I'm also going to put the Y or the 90 degree in this side, so I can have short lengths of pipe going back to it, shorter. I don't know whether to get a longer pipe for when I pull it out or not. I really don't know, but if I do, that probably won't be a bad idea. How's that? I was going to get a 3 metre length of pipe, like this is the same, this is 3 metre, but in the 65, and if I cut it in half, I can only pull the saw out a certain, like a limited distance, because of the only being 1.5 metres on each side. If I get the 3 metre one, which can also be joined, but if I have a 6 metre one, so I have a 3 metre on each side, then I can pull the saw out as much as I want. I'm going to have a wee bit of a think about that. It could be, I was just thinking, it could be that, hang on, let's just have a wee think about that. Rather than put the larger pipe there, or an extra one down this point, can I make a 65 millimetre? No. I was going to put a Y and a T in the 65 millimetre pipe and have two 65s going in at one point, but no, that would choke back the airflow. No. Anyway, it's okay if you didn't follow that, because I'm not too sure what I just said, whether it makes any worthwhile sense. Right, there's all that. I'm going to also be remaking the pad here, the MFT style of pad that goes on the miter saw, and it will be more, because this was just an offcut that I had and I chopped it up and put it on there. So I'm going to remake it full length of this up to this point at least, because it's a bit of a pain not having that surface continuous. And I'm going to drill some more holes. It's going to be used, those extra holes are going to be used for storing the stops, so that, like the pins that actually locate them, I just ordered some more last night, the pins that locate them, the no wriggle pins, can be placed in position, the pins pushed into those holes, and it stays nice and secure, ready for its next use. In theory, you really only need one, maybe two pin stops like that, strips like that. I'm going to do a few more because I can, but there will be situations where I want to have multiple stops created for a specific and repeatable size or cut. That way I can lift them up, put them in place, do my cut, lift them back up, put them in storage again, and carry on. And then when I need that same cut again, I can pick it up, put it in place, etc. I don't have to dial in the measurement for each time I need that particular cut, and that gives me a little bit more consistency in the cut accuracies. So there's that. I've talked a bit about how you can dial these stops into the, not kidding, hundredths of a millimetre, maybe 5/100ths of a millimetre. That is pretty darn fine, but you can. Dialing it in simply to close to a millimetre is, you don't realise just how fine sometimes we work. Well, we probably do realise it, but when we actually say how fine, it sounds like we're kind of like being a bit too pedantic. Well, no, I don't think so. The difference between a few hundredths of a few hundredths of a millimetre, you can feel it and see it. So we are actually working in a level of tolerance in the woodworking workshop that I think sometimes people misappreciate to how far we need to go. So that's why I'm doing that. I like it. Very, very handy, and it's good to have a storage place for them in there. So that's all good. I am also contemplating making an extra additional pad that goes on to the wing table that can be put in position to replicate as if it was a full continuous board. I noted that some of my cuts were not able to be accommodated by the stops and the number of holes that I had here. So that's another option. We'll see how that works. To that end, this will be the board that I'll be using, and it's actually quite a nice, the colour and texture. Well, the colour, the pattern is quite nice, but it is quite a smooth and slick surface, so that just aids moving things in and out. So that I've got two of these boards. I'm going to rip them down the middle because I require a 300 or 400 wide. I can't go any wider than 400 if I want to use my drill press. But I'm going to cut that one down. That gives me my reference edge, which will butt up against the fence. I can then cut the other half down so that, and then redowel it back onto it. That'll give me the cut like that will butt up against the fence. That becomes the major reference method for this top. I need to cut it down. I was actually going to cut a notch out, and then I realised, no, can't do that. I need to have that width reduced down so I can drill the holes with the drill press. I still see that as an advantage rather than trying to do it in one piece for a couple of reasons, but the ability to drill the holes on the drill press rather than having a jig can't be emphasised enough. You'll never get anything more accurate and ease of drilling than the drill press. The jig in a handheld drill, it's a lot of holes. I can't quite say it's a pleasure to do, but it's much more enjoyable to do. Put it that way. So yeah, make up a couple of these for the left and right hand side, and carry on. The thing that I've missed here, it's getting a bit jumbled here again, but the thing that I missed was having I'll reword that. The thing that I enjoyed greatly was having this area here infilled by the top, by this pad. So often when you're cutting pieces on either this side or the other side, they fall over, they fall down. You're cutting small bits because you're doing different jobs, you're infill pieces, and you don't have the full surface to support it. Because I've got my saw and bench set up in a manner that I can articulate it right round, and this nests into this bit. I've had to cut back the top. If this was recessed into a deeper top, then I may not have to have that same cutout, but I have, and you see a lot of people with the same thing. So, it's kind of like a natural outcome of having this sort of setup. Right, so that means that this is an unsupported area, and even though I do lose 18 mil of cutting capacity by having that pad there, not so much of an issue for the bigger saw, I pick up that nice continuous surface again. Yippee. And just as an aside, in fact, I'll push that down there. When the pad is like that, supporting the material, so it's effectively, excuse the croaky voice, it's effectively a zero tolerance insert, but it's a zero tolerance top. Well, that's a good thing just on itself, and it is quite surprising how handy it is for when you're just giving your initial positioning of your material of reference. It, I think, improves the pickup of the sawdust. It traps it underneath in this part of the saw, and this aids in that. So I've noticed that. Subjective, objective, I'm not too sure. I think it helps improve the function of the dust collection, chip collection. Not perfect, as you see. Mind you, to be fair, some of this is because I had to do a couple of little cuts that I didn't turn the extractor on for. But not perfect, no, but what is? So I'm going to have a little look at how I create my new plenum, if I can incorporate the 45s, and how I install the 65mm pipes. So yeah, all of that. Right, well that's probably it. I need to go grab some of the supplies, as I said, put the racks on the van, and then I can come back in here and start cutting. I was going to do the drawers first, but making the pads for the miter saw itself will aid me in doing that, and it needs to be done at some stage anyway. It cuts up some more material, gets it off the shelf. These were just stored up out of the way. These are the couple that weren't actually a nuisance, but nonetheless, cut these up, drill the holes, put them in place, get it working, and then go from there. Rightio. Well, yeah, better go do some work. With that, I'll bid you goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, see you later now. Bye.